combine small town roots with business savvy, and you've got the Rural Rundown podcast. We're sharing our marketing and branding strategies, tips, and tricks that rural businesses can use to educate, inspire, and entertain their customers, and to help you make sales and hit profit goals. So what does it take to go from your mom is your only fan to famous in a small town? Tune in and listen up as we feature business owners and organizations that are doing big things in their community and creating opportunities for generations to come. Well, hello. Welcome to the Rural Rundown podcast. We are your hosts, Brenna Ramsden and Rachel Aeikens. Rach, how are you today?
Good. Doing well. I'm excited to talk about social media and kind of launch our series off today. How are you doing?
Absolutely. I'm doing good. Enjoying the sunshine in Arizona. Yesterday it was hailing. I couldn't believe it was hailing here. And I was like, I feel like I got tricked into moving here where you said it was going to be sunny all the time.
Joke's on you.
Yeah.
Is your pool done?
It's done. I cleaned it this morning because we were gone for a week, and there's a tree right on the other side of our fence in the green belt, and it sheds its leaves right into our pool. So it's kind of a disaster from that.
Oh no, but it's usable close.
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone says it's too cold, but we're a couple like northern kids who like grew up swimming in stock tanks, so we don't think it's that cold. We're probably going to jump in it much sooner than everybody else uses their pool around here, but it's all right.
I love it.
Yeah, so we are starting off our social media series, and today we're calling it our social media toolbox. So these are platforms and apps that we use for marketing in our business, getting on social media. I find that using these programs or tools or apps that we have listed really helps stay organized in using social media, because we can get trapped in that like endless consuming cycle, right? The scroll loop, people call it, where you're just on social scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and you're never posting any content. But using some of these apps and these tools that we're going to talk about today really helps me and my business for sure. And it's helped my clients as well get to a point where they feel like they can use social media to help them in their business.
Yes, for sure. I feel like this year I'm trying to be like a little more organized, even more than I am. And I'd feel like I'm fairly organized, but I think just seeing that I really already do use a lot of organizational tools makes me feel a little better about myself. And I'm glad that we can kind of share things that we've found that help us or the clients we work with kind of just get going and not feel like I don't know where to start or where to put anything. And you're not just getting stuck anymore. We're like, okay, let's go. Here's the next step.
Well, Rach, why don't you dive in with Creator Studio and tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Okay, so Facebook is the one of the main platforms I use for myself and for all of my clients. And when it comes to actually scheduling content, this is where I go as Creator Studio. And I know it's a little different across what you have access to, but this has kind of been the rollout that I've seen in the past year. They've been directing people and kind of want you to be using. So a lot of my clients were just trying to use publishing tools and they couldn't even get anything scheduled anymore. So that's why I have this at the top of my list. I'm in there all the time. I know if I'm not publishing in real time, this is where I'm going to be scheduling out my content for the month. I really like it because it allows me to do that, and I can see everything that's coming in the scheduled part, in the drafts part, in the published part. That's kind of the perks for it for me. Brenna, you've used Creator Studio. Do you kind of have anything else you'd like to add?
I've used Creator Studio. Like you said, when you kind of lost the ability to publish out or schedule out items, that's kind of when I jumped over to Creator Studio early on, because I knew I needed to use it for my business as well as some of my clients. I do not do any like social media management for anybody. I really try to steer clear of that, but I do have clients that need help getting their Facebook pages set up for the first time or connecting them with their Instagram. I find Creator Studio, I don't think clunky is the right word, and if you don't like know what you're looking at, it does seem overwhelming, and it seems like, holy smokes, there is so much information here, and I don't know what it all means or where I'm supposed to start or even like how I'm supposed to post. So I actually, just because of the life we were living, like being on the road, I didn't spend as much time on my desktop, and I just would post mainly from my phone. So I think that like changes the way you use Creator Studio too, because on your phone, you're using like the Business Suite app from Facebook, which is different than what you're seeing in Creator Studio. So definitely there's a ton of good things in there. If you're running any social media ads or any like Facebook ads, Creator Studio is where you're going to find all of those like helpful tips and information and what you're doing there. So I think it has a place in your business for sure, especially if you're working on desktop. It's just not something I do. So that's definitely more, you know what's going on more there than I do.
Yeah, yes. And I'm glad you brought up that point. Yes. I'm working from a desktop computer. So that is, kind of my go-to place. And like I said, again, for scheduling, when you look at just your page, there is a lot of almost like duplicate things that are happening there that you can also see in Creator Studio. So that can get a little like, where do I go? My recommendation, you can always like ask me what I think specific to you, but what I do sometimes is what I just know, like I look when I'm on my page, I look at insights there, and then I use more Creator Studio for the actual scheduling part of it. There's also some other tools in there that I haven't dabbled in a lot, but I know they're there. There's like the whole live studio part of it, and there's also this little sound collections part where you can download music and use it in like your Facebook videos, which is kind of helpful if you're trying to find music that's maybe you don't have to pay for, or sign up for some other subscription. Again, it's limited on what you can get, but it is helpful if you're just trying to find a little music to put in the background of something. So that's kind of my take on Creator Studio and what I found helpful within that.
Yeah, I have used the live feature before, so I do know that like back end a little bit more than the rest of them. But Creator Studio is definitely the place to be. Like Rachel said, if you want to schedule out some content or you want to be able to like see your posts and how they're performing kind of at a glance, that's definitely where you need to be. The next tool in our toolbox is Canva, and I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Canva. I'm getting to love it more. This is why I have a love-hate relationship. Too many people go to Canva and design their logos for free on Canva, and it drives me crazy. And here's the reason why you shouldn't do that. Because you and 10,000 other people now have the same exact logo, because guess what? It's free on Canva. Using it for that purpose, I do not recommend. Like, invest in yourself, invest in your business, and invest in good branding. However, if you want to create graphics or ads or flyers for your business or something like that, where like maybe you're not a graphic designer, that's not your forte, Canva's great for that. Lately, I've been using it for a lot of my clients that I do full brands with. I deliver all of their stuff into Canva, and I'll even create them like 2 or 3 or 5 social media graphics so that they can use those in their business. That's what I think Canva is really good for. So that's kind of my like love-hate relationship with it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, I was also wondering, like, with your love-hate relationship there, Brenna, like, like the Adobe Suite, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign. And I used to use those programs quite a while ago, and now they expired on my computer and I don't need them in my everyday job. So Canva kind of has been my go-to, but it is nice for someone who doesn't have access to that, or, doesn't want to pay for the Adobe Cloud right now, that you can get a lot of those things done in Canva for social posts. Like you said, if you want to make a little card to hand out, there's just little things that make it really slick. And I love the feature in Canva that you can actually share it with somebody. So as you said, if you're making something for a client and it's kind of you're handing it off to them, they have access to it now, and you don't have to be trying to help them all the time with it. It's theirs. So it's nice for that. There's lots of little different things you can do in Canva, which is really slick. At this point, I've designed all my invoices in there, my proposals, different things like that. So, for not only client, also just for me as a business, I've been able to kind of make things that could just be a Word doc into something that's a little more branded for me or my clients, and a little more up-leveled without, having to try to go into InDesign or pay for that too. So I kind of like it for that and think that's pretty slick.
Yeah, the great thing about Canva is that it's free too. And it's free. At the free level, you have the ability to do so much. And they make it really user friendly. So if you're in there and like you said, Rach, if you're designing cards or thank yous for people, or like even just flyers to hang up around town about something you have coming up, they make it really easy to like save and export those in the file format that you need to use. So everything is pretty user-friendly. They're rolling out new functions all the time. And I don't know if you get it at the free level, but at the paid level, which is only, I think it's $99 a year. At the paid level, you can remove photo backgrounds, which I was testing out last night, actually, because I'm updating some of the stuff on my Facebook group. You can remove photo backgrounds and it's super slick. It works really fast. And for a program it's web-based, so you do have to be on the internet. But for a program that's web-based and offers you so much, Canva does a really good job. And actually, I was thinking about this the other day when my dad started his orchard. It was probably about 5 or 6 years ago now. I remember being on Pinterest and trying to find things for him to be able to do himself. And Canva was one that I like saw it. I went and tried it out, created some like banners for his website. And then I was like, oh, this is super slick. And I found a note when I was moving that says like, Canva works great for blah, 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 blah. Like recommend this to dad or something. And now it's funny because I'm like, now I just like, people take it too far. But it is a great platform.
Yeah. All right, which one are we going to talk about next?
Well, let's talk about Bitly a little bit, because that might be something that most people don't use in their business or might not even know why to use it. So tell me how you use Bitly in your business, Rach.
Yes. So Bitly, if you've never used it before, you've maybe seen it before. It's like when it takes a URL link, like a really long one, and then instead it just says Bitly, and there might be like a slash and a couple of numbers, letters. And the way I use it is with Bitly, you don't have to have those little weird number letters after it. You can usually customize it to whatever you want. So for example, if I'm going to do something for Rule Rundown, I could do, Bitly/Rule Rundown episode 1 instead of trying to link a big long URL that's kind of ugly and bulky and maybe not very nice when we're trying to write something succinct on our social posts. So that's really how I use it for my clients. If I have a link, and a lot of the times, almost any campaign I run for my clients do have a link because we usually have a call to action for them to go somewhere, whether it's a website, landing page, some type of content. I'll put a Bitly link in there, customize the ending of it just so it's branded, again, put my client name, whatever it is. And I just feel like that looks a lot more professional than just a big, long, ugly link that's going somewhere and you're like, kind of like, that doesn't look very nice. So that's how I use it.
Yeah, and Bitly works the same way as Tinyurl, Tinyurl, which is what I use most of the time. And I use it in your Instagram bios, right? Where that you can add the URL where it can link to your website. Again, like Rach said, like it's super long. Sometimes a lot of places will have like a limit on how long that URL is or how many characters you can have in that anyway. So that's where you would use one of these services to shorten that up. The other time that you might want to use something like this is when you're making posts, and Rachel, you might know more about this too, but I know that Facebook kind of deters you from using really long URLs because it thinks it's spammy. So like the algorithm won't show it to as many people. In Instagram posts, the URL doesn't work, so you wouldn't use a URL there, but other places you would. And so I actually have, like you said, Rach, where it's customized to you. I have all of my URLs saved in just the Notes app on my phone. So like my scheduler, my services page, and contact form, and one other thing I can't remember is always right there. And then I actually save them as shortcuts in my keyboard. So I can just do like /services when I'm typing to somebody, and it'll pop up and it'll give me the tiny URL to it. So those are just some tips along with shortening your URL, even like shortening it and making it automated even further.
Yeah, I think that's a smart move. And it doesn't really take that much time, I promise. Maybe it seems like, oh, this is another thing I have to do. But if you're just trying to, put that professional foot forward, I think it's worth it. Worth your time.
Yeah.
And it's free. I mean, Bitly's free. Tinyurl's free too, right?
Yeah, it's free. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. It's kind of a no-brainer.
I would agree. And I think it really shows, like, do yourself a favor. Go to somebody's Instagram profile and see what their URL link looks like in their bio. And you'll kind of tell the difference, like, between something that's, like, short and sweet, and you can see exactly where you're headed, to something that maybe isn't, and it's just a huge numbers and letters and weird characters and symbols and whatever. You'll kind of see the difference there, and maybe that'll like kind of show a little proof in the pudding.
Okay, so the next one, we're kind of diving into different areas, I feel like, on this one, but the one that is just kind of a generic free one that probably a lot of people know would be using, like, the Google Suite. I hope that's the right way to say it.
Google Drive.
Yeah, Google Drive. Yes, you got it. With that, you get Google Sheets, Google Docs, Google Forms, all as well as your email account, and Google Drive to, like, save things. So I like this as an option. I've used this for myself personally with my email, and then like the notes that I'm looking at right now for this are on a Google Doc. So I have lots of Google Docs, Google Sheets to organize maybe some social planning, and I'll occasionally use the Drive to upload and save documents too. Google Forms are great if you want to launch a survey that's just for free. I mean, that's a really handy tool if you want to use for your clients. But I also have some other ones in here that are paid. They could be free for a little bit, but they might have a little more fancy of a way to organize things. So another tool that I've used is Typeform. That's like a really pretty Google form basically, and you can really customize it to your brand. There, you will have to pay for it if you want it to, like, calculate certain scores or, like, make it a quiz that will have a certain outcome once someone takes it. But I do really highly recommend that if you have the funds and you like having that branded look. And another one I use is Trello, which is similar to something you could probably organize in, like, a Google Doc or sheet, but it lets you, like, move around things. So I think sometimes it's like the design and the aesthetic of it, depending on how type of person you are, the way you look at information, one of these might be easier to use, whereas another, it just would be like looking at numbers and you'd be like, no. So I think you just have to find what works for you. But Brenna, I'd love for you to talk about your experience with any of these and then also launch into the one that you use for your business.
I use Google Drive a ton. Actually, as you were just talking through those, I was like, oh yeah, I think I use it way more than I think I do. Actually, when I first started my business, I used the forms feature to send questionnaires to all of my clients. So all of their, like, brand design questionnaires and ideal client, like, questionnaire, that would all come through Google. And then I just found that wasn't really working for me. So I switched to a client relations, like, management tool, which is what I'll talk about a little bit later on. I've not used Typeform before, but I think that's probably exactly what I've been looking for something that I want to start doing in my business, or at least using it as, like, a lead magnet. So I will definitely have to check into that. The other thing I use Google Drive for a lot is one of my clients, I do maintenance on their website. And they publish a lot of results from all of their events that they hold, all their team ropings. So all of their results live inside of my Google Drive, and it lives in my Google Sheets, and I can embed right from there. So inside of Google Sheets, I can embed that results onto their webpage. So there's a lot of features inside of Google where you can share, like Rachel said, that's how we're looking at our notes for this episode. We can both look at it. We can both edit at the same time. And we can see where either person is. So there's definitely some uses for Google. I've used Google Photos for a while. That's when I first started doing photos for just, like, friends and family. I would deliver them through Google Photos just because it had a large amount of space. So definitely those cloud-based systems are something to be, like, take advantage of those, because I've known a lot of people to organize their client relations through Google Drive as well, with the different, like, documents, taking notes during client meetings or delivering certain things to them, doing all that through Google Drive. And I feel like the next thing on our list, which is Dropbox, kind of fits in there as well, because it's a cloud-based service where you just host files, basically, or, it holds all of your files, makes it easy to share with, collaborators or clients or other people just across the web. So that's basically what I use Dropbox for. But how are you using it in your business, Rach?
Yeah, very similar. As I said in the past, I have used like Google Drive with clients. Sometimes the best luck I've had lately seems to be on Dropbox, just on the ease of getting things to upload and save. So I've kind of transitioned to Dropbox this past year. I mean, I've used it in the past, but it seems to, like, when I'm sharing videos or photo files, that seems to have been working pretty good that way. For a few of my clients, if we have like a file that we have in like a lead campaign, so for example, somebody wants to like download a guide or something and it's too big to be hosted in whatever place we're sending it out from, we can just link to the Dropbox folder. You could do the same thing with a Google Drive folder. So there's lots of different ways to use that, and it's just great. There's lots of options. You can find out which one like really suits your needs and efficiencies and everything like that.
The next one is Business Suite, and I was just talking with somebody the other day. They didn't realize that there was an app for Facebook business pages. Rach, talk about Business Suite.
Yes. So going back to what I said about Facebook before, sometimes they like seem to change things all the time, but Business Suite seems to be the newest app on my phone anyway, where I can manage the different business pages that I need to. And honestly, most of my time is spent on the desktop doing that. But let's say I'm out somewhere and I need to post something for a client. This is the app I go into, click the account that I want to schedule from, post from, comment back on something with. This is where I'll go into it. And that's basically how I use it. Do you use it any differently, Brenna? Or
No, I don't use it any differently. Like we said before, I've just transitioned to actually having like a home office and being like set up with my desktop all the time. So Business Suite has been on my phone for a very long time because that's basically that's how I manage my page at all. A lot of times what will happen, because obviously your original Facebook app is still connected to your business page, so I can see all the comments and all the stuff that people send through my original Facebook app. But if I want to interact as my page, then I have to go into the business manager, because the regular app is really like doesn't want you to switch very often anymore. So I head on over to the Business Suite. Anytime that I want to interact on my business page, that's the app that I'm using.
That's excellent what you just said, because I get a lot of clients will ask, I'm trying to answer as my page and I can't. Well, you have to know where the little toggle thing is if you're in your personal page, and if it doesn't show up, because sometimes it hasn't shown up for me, then you are stuck to your personal. So if you are worried about like, oh, I want to respond as my business page, I would recommend trying it in the suite. So I feel like that's a good way to kind of wrap that one up. Exactly what you said, but just reinforced it. The next one on here, we're going to talk about Slack a little bit. So Brenna, I'd love for you to go ahead and take that one away.
Yeah, for sure. Slack is definitely a tool to use. I just heard somebody reference it the other day as like, remember MSN Messenger? This is kind of like the new and improved version of MSN Messenger is Slack. And I thought that was a really interesting something to relate it to, because I'm like, oh, when you think about it that way, it seems to like make more sense. I've used this in my business, actually less in my business, more on like group projects or other like avenues that I've been a part of. So Western Wedding Magazine, when we were building that, Slack was kind of a form of communication where I really wanted us to stick to, because you can set up different channels in Slack. A lot of people are probably like, well, why can't you just have a group text, right? Because like essentially that's what it is. But in Slack, you can have different channels. So like in Western Wedding Magazine, this channel is about, the graphic design portion of it. This channel is about the articles. This channel is about the planning for the like next content shoot or something. So you can keep all of that separate. And then you can, if you had a larger team of people, even just like 5 to 6 people, then each team can kind of be like, okay, this is my area of expertise. This is what I'm working on. I don't really need to focus on any of the other channels. The other way that I've used Slack in my business is actually in a group of graphic designers from across the nation mostly. Everybody's kind of from everywhere. And it's called the Designers Cohort. And it's just this place where we can like hang out. The leader of the pack, Melissa, she schedules some speakers once a month, and they come in and talk about different design stuff and like different strategies people are using. So it's kind of like being in a Facebook group, but it's just not on Facebook, you know, if you think about it that way too, a place where people can kind of come and gather and use it. So that's how I've used it in my business.
I used Slack when I was at my previous job, and it was really nice. I mean, to give a little more example, my job before that, I worked at an ad agency, and honestly, like the only way that we communicated at that agency was through email. So transitioning from only like trying to organize an inbox and find what stories I had to write and send for approvals, and then go to this new job that used Slack, and like you said, everything was in the channels that it needed to be in. I was like, wow, this is so easy. So if you do have a team where you're sharing a lot of information on different topics, I think it's so nice. And it, you know, someday if I ever have a team again, I would love to implement and use Slack. I just thought it was, you know, I wanted to like email all my old bosses and be like, you guys should use Slack because this is awesome. But yeah, I think it's really great. And you can share pictures in there, videos in there. I liked it a lot. So
Facebook ads manager. I don't know why I had a hard time reading that. I feel like we touched on that a little bit before, but it obviously is it's not like Creator Studio like I thought. So take us away with Facebook Ads Manager, because I actually have only run a handful of ads in my time.
Facebook Ads Manager, I've been running Facebook ads for the last 4 years. So I've spent a lot of time in here. But if you're going to run an ad, I highly recommend you to actually go into that back end of Facebook Ads Manager. Don't just click the boost button, because Facebook Ads Manager lets you kind of see all those things and the different targeting options that you need to pick as you're creating an ad that should serve your business well. So someday we can do a much longer episode all about Facebook ads, but I use this for my clients. Right now, paid social media for Facebook or Instagram is a lot cheaper than a lot of other advertising methods. So that's kind of the thing that we focus on. And this is a tool I use every day for my clients. So again, I'm doing it for a lot of them, but there's some tricks and tips in there if you're doing it yourself that I just think are helpful to see, because it breaks it down by, you know, the campaign, ad set, and then the actual ad level. So that's a really quick overview, but yeah, do you have anything else you want to add, Brenna?
You know, the only thing, I'm an insights junkie, so that's what I really like about Facebook Ads Manager, is that I can go in there and I can see where, like, if it's hitting my target, where these people are viewing it from, how many people have seen it, how my, like, money, my advertising money is working for me, and if it's not, switching it up and kind of changing it. So that's what I really like about Facebook Ads Manager. They have a lot of graphs, a lot of info there as far as insights, so you can really see, like, what's working and what's not working.
Yes, and you're totally right there. Like, if you're results driven, it has so much data. And if you're going to be testing different ads against each other, you can really see, wow, this one is performing a lot better. I'm going to turn this off, put more money towards that one. And you can also tap into the Facebook's tools of their audiences, so you can retarget people who have engaged with your Facebook page before, your website visitors. They kind of do have all those slick retargeting tools as well when you're thinking about adding those things into your whole campaign that you're doing as well. So yeah, I'll end there before I get too nerdy, but we could go on a while on that. I could.
The next thing we have on here are email marketing platforms. Both of them are. Rach, do you use Mailchimp in your business?
I do right now. I know there's a ton of good email platforms out there. I just use Mailchimp for me and a few of my clients because it's free. You can build landing pages off of it. There's a lot of other features you can tap into if you want to pay for it. I know there's Constant Contact. There's all those other different ones out there as well. But I just like it. I think having a place to keep your leads is very important, and you should be trying to get leads for your business no matter what you do. So until you're ready to maybe move on to more of a paid plan, at least this is a good starter one that I would recommend. Or any of those, just start thinking about how should I get leads for my business that I can, eventually convert into a customer. And that's really the thing I want to say about whichever one you use, that's how you want to be thinking about having that. Yeah, Brenna, what's the one you would recommend?
So I've used Mailchimp in the past, and I used it actually for a client who had, it was probably close to about 5,000 contacts on their email list. So I really liked Mailchimp for what it was. It's very simple. It's very easy to understand. It's very easy to navigate. So it's easy for my clients to navigate too. I found with Mailchimp, when Gmail switched over, if you're on the regular Gmail app, it's separated into tabs of like promotions and regular inbox. What I found with Mailchimp is that a lot of our emails were going directly to the promotions tab. So a lot of times it was getting missed by people, which was like really frustrating. But it wasn't just happening to us. Like at the same time, I was on an email list from Jenna Kutcher, and a lot of Jenna Kutcher's emails would end up in that promotions tab too. So something to be aware of with whatever email platform you're going to use. I just found that it specifically happened to Mailchimp quite a bit. When I started my own business, I was using MailerLite. It was free. It did just exactly what I needed it to, worked a lot the same way like Mailchimp, drag and drop kind of like situation. I have now switched over to FloDesk. And really the main reason I've switched over to FloDesk, it is a paid platform and it's pretty hefty. It's about $300 a year. The reason I switched over to FloDesk was because as a designer, I felt like I really needed the freedom to design my emails and create really beautiful emails, which I didn't have. I felt like I didn't have as much freedom in Mailchimp or in MailerLite. That was pretty like boxy, I think is probably the right word I want to use. So that's why I switched over to FloDesk. Literally the only reason I switched is because it's prettier and it was really an aesthetics game. And I started sending out a monthly newsletter. So it was something that I really wanted to, as a designer, I wanted to have really pretty emails. And I think that's really important when somebody opens their email from me that they're like, wow, this is beautiful, because that's what I'm doing every day is designing really beautiful stuff. So that's why I switched over to FloDesk. It still has some of the same capabilities of building a lead page, having pop-ups on your website. FloDesk works the exact same way as everything else. It's just more customizable. When people send me emails, when I get on somebody's email list for the first time, I always scroll down to the bottom and see where it's coming from and who is their email marketing specialist in there. So it's always interesting to see what people use, but I would say Mailchimp and FloDesk are probably the most common ones that I see.
Yeah, that's funny. I do the same thing too, because it's like, do you find out if there's something new out there that you don't know about, or I think this is our last one, and this is all you, Brenna, because I only have briefly used this, so tell us what it is.
Absolutely. So like I said earlier, I don't spend a ton of time on Facebook. If I did, most of my scheduling would probably be through the Creator Studio because I can schedule out content. However, I spend a lot of my time on Instagram, and so I use Planoly. I don't know. People say stuff like all different words, but it's Planoly, and I schedule out all of my Instagram content from this platform. I have the app on my phone, which is really easy to use. I can just upload photos from my camera roll on my phone and schedule them out. This gives you a whole bunch of options. So you can see the grid, like how it would look, all of your stuff scheduled out. Like you can schedule it certain days, or you can just move it around and kind of like test it out and see like where things would look good. And then you also have a calendar view. So on the calendar, you can see how many times a week you're posting, what days of the week you're going to post. I mostly use it to write. I write all of my captions there. I schedule out my content, and then I have some of it auto post. And Rachel and I were talking about this right before we hopped on here. I would say probably about half of my content auto post where I've already written the caption. I pick the specific time and the date that I want it to go out, and then I just push it for auto post. So I get notified on my phone when something gets posted. So then I can hop over to Instagram. I like to put my hashtags in the first comment, and then I can engage with people. The other half of my content, I will write my captions, have my photos ready to go, but I won't schedule it for auto post. This is stuff that I know that I really want to be present for when it posts, and I really want to spend some time engaging with people. But instead of typing in that terrible tiny space where all your words run away from you, I hate Instagram for that, I can just paste my caption because I've already written it either on my desktop or on my phone, so it's already been spell checked once before. And then I can engage with people then. But I get along just fine on the free version. I really don't see any need to pay for anything else for what I'm...
Good to know about if you're focusing on Instagram and kind of want those tools.
I think they just recently integrated with Facebook, so you can post on both, but don't quote me on that because I don't use it for that. Mainly I just use it for Instagram. I try not to, because from Instagram, it can go to Facebook at the same time. So if I ever have something I want to double post, I do it that way. I don't really love posting my content at both platforms at the same time. I feel like that's just like a waste of views. You know what I mean? Like if people are going to see it on Instagram, then they don't need to see it on Facebook at the exact same time. Maybe you can repurpose that content and use it at a different time up for different platforms. I don't know. Like I said, I really like it. For me, it really helps.
Exactly. And then sitting there knowing you need to post something that day and you're just caught up in what everybody else is doing instead of thinking, what's the best thing for my audience, for my business? Like you said, what moves the needle forward? So that's a big conversation. I totally feel like we could probably do a podcast on itself, a whole episode. But I mean, I think we kind of covered the gamut in different tools we use, platforms we use, things that help us kind of stay organized and have a plan so we can go forward and actually, not get stuck just like you said in the scroll loop. Is there anything else you thought of, Brenna, or like last ending thing we should make sure we say?
The only thing I want to say is like this can be overwhelming to hear about all the things that we've talked about today and like how to use them in social media, but there is no one right way to do social media. There's a lot of wrong ways to do social media, and there's a lot of right ways to do social media. These are just tools that we find that really help us as business owners really get our stuff out there. And I think social media is such an important tool for rural businesses. Social media is huge for rural businesses because it gives you such a larger platform to share your story and to share your products and to really get clients from all across the world. So definitely do not sleep on social media. That's why we chose this as our first episode, to talk about different tools that you can have in your toolbox to really help you organize and like use it to the best of your ability.
And stick around because in the next upcoming episodes, we'll be diving in even further into how to use social media exactly, the things you should be asking yourself or asking your customers. And we're just really excited to bring all this information and share what we know.
That's it for today, and I guess we will catch you in the next one. Well, that's it for this episode of the Rural Rundown Podcast.
Thanks for listening. You can always find us on social media at the Rural Rundown.
And if you really liked this episode, we would totally love it if you gave us a review and gave us a little rating.
It would mean so much to us. And for more small town roots and business savvy, catch us on the next one.